Hello, 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 beautiful people. Come on in the room. This is Dr. Sherry here. Have a great night ahead in store for us. I'm so excited. We've had great conversations with people on the phone, people online, people via social media. And so I wanted to come back around as we go into our summer months. Yesterday was Memorial Day, kind of the kickoff to the summer. And we want to make sure that you are equipped, that you are aware, that you're intentional about what you do over the summer regarding our children, especially our Black and brown kids. I'm just going to say it, Black and brown kids. And so I wanted to come together tonight. Listen, y'all, I got some like powerhouses. Hear me. I have powerhouses here from Oklahoma City, from Maryland, from Illinois. And so they're going to be sharing with us tonight. And so I am just so excited to offer this space. And I want this to be a safe space for all of us to have conversations, to really understand where we are, what's going on, what's going to happen with education. Again, being intentional with our own children, whether we're from pre-K. Guys, I even have somebody here from Oklahoma City Community College. So let's say from 2 up to college age. And so we want to make sure that we have an amazing conversation tonight. What I want to do first is to start the conversation. There's a video I found, and it's out of a school in Colorado. But as I told the panelists, this is not just for Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, right? This is something that the academic gap our kids are seeing all across this country. And so this specific video is from Colorado, but it talks to the needs and talks to some of the challenges that we are all facing. And so I'm going to let that play so you all have the intention. And then I'm going to introduce you to our amazing guest tonight. So again, I thank you. I invite you to like, to comment, to share this with a friend. If you're an auntie, you may not have any kids, but you're a godmommy or an auntie or a grandmommy or granddaddy who might have the kids over the summer. You don't want to miss this. Got it? So here we go. I'm going to go for the video. Again, this is based out of Colorado, but it affects all of our children all over. So stay tuned.
It is a very old problem, and it's not getting any better. The achievement gap between white and Asian students and Black and Hispanic students continues to widen.
Nelson Garcia continues our Disparity in Colorado series with a look at the possible reasons why and some solutions.
Anybody know what an octopi is? An octopi?
Inside of classrooms across Colorado,
Hermes was already seeking out another of the gods.
Teachers like Jessica Shigalski face a struggle that she says begins outside of classrooms.
Depending on what they need, we do our best and cater to their needs.
So this is a place where families can come shop.
Melody Means is the Dean of Culture at Wyatt Academy in Denver, where a clothing boutique in the city's oldest school building may help tackle the nation's age-old problem called the achievement gap.
Kids of color are achieving at a slower rate than kids that are not of color.
Any questions so far?
On average, Black and Hispanic students score lower than white and Asian students.
Nope, I'm looking at this one.
And state standardized tests show the problem is getting worse.
The people that are teaching us, I don't think truly understand people of color.
In 2004, more than half of Hispanic students and 60% of Black students in Colorado were proficient or better in reading, compared to about 80% of white students. In 2019, test results show that Black and Latino students are down to 25% with expected reading skills, with white students doubling those scores, widening the gap.
People are starting to ask the tough questions. Why is this happening, and what can we do to start really being serious about closing these achievement gaps?
Dr. Dan Jesse is a principal analyst with Metropolitan State University of Denver and its Western Educational Equity Assistance Center, studying the reasons why the achievement gap has existed over time.
It's a systemic racism system. You cannot grow up in America and not be racist and sexist.
He says society has forced minorities to make up a large part of the low-income population, and poverty is a huge factor when it comes to learning.
Equity is such a complicated issue, and obviously it's been with us for hundreds of years if you really go back and look at what's going on.
Is there the A sound in mistake?
Wyatt Academy is 90% minority and 90% low income. Means says in the neighborhoods around Wyatt, race and poverty are tied together.
It's too bad that it is, but it is. They go hand in hand.
That's why Means and Wyatt Academy have this clothing boutique.
So yeah, it does. It has a huge impact on the achievement gap.
Families can come in here and pick up clothes for free. They can also come to school and do laundry or pick up food if they're hungry. Ways that Means believes can take care of concerns outside of classrooms so Hispanic and Black kids
In the rain.
can do better inside of classrooms.
We want to be able to meet the needs of all students at Wyatt Academy. This is why we're closing the achievement gap.
She's also creating individual learning profiles and supporting teachers to develop better ways of teaching kids of color.
So I will go in and talk to you, and I want to understand what you're teaching and about your students.
Last year at Wyatt, Means says the achievement gap continues to shrink, with Hispanic students and all low-income students beating the state average in math scores.
We understand that for students to trust us, their families have to trust us.
Everything that we do as a staff, everything that we do together to work with our students is going to get them to close that gap, to reach the level that they need to be.
But can this work at every school? Jesse says yes, but it's difficult.
I think people do tend to get burned out by that, and in bigger districts, you'll see that quite often.
So the Colorado Department of Education is trying something else.
By making sure that all Colorado children have an opportunity to learn in a really high-quality environment, we think that that gap can close.
Melissa Colesman is the Associate Commissioner for Student Learning. State legislators have committed around $33 million a year to support teachers in trying to help all kids read at grade level by third grade through a law called the READ Act.
It's often said that in grades K through 3, kids are learning to read, and after that, kids are reading to learn.
Can anybody tell me why a table of contents is important in a book?
Colesman calls third grade reading a critical milestone that can solve the achievement gap before it starts.
Think about this as a graph. If this is a student's performance that's below grade level, and here's their grade level peer, the gap gets bigger as kids get older.
She says kids behind in reading in third grade are 4 times more likely to drop out of high school.
So not having those foundational skills in place put children at a disadvantage in every subject area.
AI sound.
That's why Shigalski hopes the work she's doing in second grade in reading
So which one should it be under? AI?
can make a difference in third grade and beyond.
We're already starting to get there. We've made a lot of progress in this school, and I think it's going to keep going upward.
Inside and outside the classroom.
We're planting seeds.
In Denver, Nelson Garcia, 9 News.
Okay, no worries. We can talk about it later.
All right. So again, that was Colorado. But one of the things that really stuck out for me was the partnerships, right? And part of that, we talk about, my husband is actually working on his doctorate of ministry, and he's trying to figure out how the church and organizations can be used. So the school that had the washer and dryer, what would it look like if the neighborhood church washed clothes for those parents that might be an issue, or if there was a clothes closet or food closet? But that's not our conversation tonight. Catch me next month on that. Tonight, I want to talk about the education. I must be completely honest, though, with you, and many of you who will watch this can agree. I must understand that I operate out of a place of privilege because I'm in a 2-parent household with my kids. If I needed to get to the school, then tell my husband, you go over here, I'm doing this. And every parent, every child that's in our school system doesn't have that. And so we are, first, when you understand where you are. So I do understand some of the things I was able to incorporate with my children. It was because I operated out of a place of privilege. But what I do know is there are some keys, there are some tools, there are some things that I don't care what your condition is. If you have 5 minutes to pour into a child, you can help your child every day and begin to close that gap. So the first person I'm going to bring to you, as you saw in the video, they talked about third grade reading. I have a specialist, a head of school out of Baltimore, Maryland. And so actually she's going to be head of school of New Century. She's going to introduce herself, but she deals with 2 years old. So like that's pre-K up to 8th grade. So that's going to be our first installment. And so I'm excited to bring Miss Erica Hall Johnson on. And I will say, if you're watching, if you have a question or comment, please go ahead and type in the chat so we can make sure we have those conversations going. All right, drum roll, please. Miss Erica Hall Johnson. Hello, my friend.
Hello, Dr. Sherry. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm ready to jump right on in. Tell the people who you are.
Who am I? I am Erica Hall Johnson. I am the new head of school for the New Century School, which is located in Fells Point, right on the water in Baltimore City. And what has led me to this position is that kind of schoolhouse, including the one that occupied my dining room for some time, because I was also a homeschool parent. Again, and I think it is such an important thing to acknowledge, because I am speaking from a place of privilege, right? Because I went to the best schools in Baltimore. So I went to private school for 12 years. I've gone to excellent universities. And when they called my child lazy at the parent meeting, I said, "Thank you so much. I appreciate your service. Please provide the withdrawal papers. Have a nice day." And then proceeded to homeschool my children. First the one, and then he kept bragging about meatloaf and mashed potatoes for lunch. So then the other two decided to come home. And we homeschooled everybody from third grade up until sixth grade.
Wow.
And then they went to public school for middle school. And then all three of my children went to private school here in Baltimore. So I recognize the privilege of having access to those institutions, but I also understand the struggle, because there's an achievement gap in those institutions as well. And so my intention for this conversation, but I think also for who I am as an educator, is that education, the way we think about education, locks us into a particular system and does not help us to understand the brilliance of each child.
Yes. Oh, I like that.
So,
brilliance of each child. Yes.
Right. Because I always say my children would never they would never get the awards that school gives out. They're not going to get perfect attendance, because some days you just need to go play outside. And your mama told you to do that. Some days you just need to go to sleep. Your mama told you to do that. So that takes them out of perfect attendance. They're not going to get straight A's, because I don't think you should be a Renaissance student. Let's work on the things that you're really good at, and let's do deep focus and concentration on that. You'll figure out the rest later, right? And so my
right now, like, what?
I know. But math is not my thing. I'm not gonna, if they picked it up and said math is really my thing, then I'm gonna deep dive into all things math, because having strong self-esteem is going to carry them through their other classes.
I like that. I like that. Yes, ma'am. So I can't wait to bring you back in. So you're taking care of our pre-K through 8th grade. And so, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2 years is really the babies. So as soon as they leave mama, at 2 years, they're coming to us. And then they stay with us from 2 years until about 4 or 5. And so that's really
daycare. That's Montessori.
It is,
but Montessori.
Well, I mean, it's how we think about daycare, right? In the Montessori program, we're never sending them to daycare. We're sending them to the children's house, where they learn how to explore the world at a level where that is comfortable for them.
Okay, well, I can't wait to jump back in. And guys, welcome Miss Erica Hall Johnson. So I'm going to bring her out, and I'm going to bring in our high school principal, Mr. Joe Hughes. How are you?
Hello. I am well.
Yeah.
Hey, I tell you what, I need to go to Baltimore.
Right.
I am Joe Hughes, the head principal at Harding Charter Preparatory High School, which is a charter public school located in Oklahoma City. We serve grades 9 through 12. We have roughly 530 students at our school. We just graduated 100 seniors 2 weeks ago. Exciting times. That group of students were able to raise $3.7 million in scholarships. But just finding those resources, giving those students opportunities, is the ultimate goal. I thank you for inviting me tonight, and hopefully I can share some things with these families on how to ensure their students are successful, not only in the summertime, but also going back into the school
Yeah.
in post-pandemic and looking at how we can engage students in the high school and grade level.
Right. And so even if they're not coming to Harder Charting Prep,
Sure,
there are other
sure.
schools all across and high schools where our kids need to be equipped. So I'm grateful for what you're going to add to that conversation to, you know, regardless of the high school they're going to.
Absolutely.
They're prepared. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to bring you out for a minute, and then I'm going to bring Mr. Dickens in, because I told you what, we are going to the college, Oklahoma City Community College. Mr. Brian Dickens, how are you this evening, sir?
I'm doing well. How about you, Dr. Sherry?
Good. So people are probably like, okay, I get the, you know, elementary, middle, high, like, why we have a college person on here? Like, who are you? Tell us why you're here.
Okay, why I'm here. Well, thank you for inviting me, and I'm really so appreciative of an opportunity to share with you and with those who are watching. Why am I here? Because we certainly need to support our children, of course, through high school, through their graduation, and then through their post-high school plans as well. Be that a college or university or a VOTEC or a technology center. So post-secondary education is so important. And I truly believe that all of our children have a success story waiting for them. Mm-hmm. It's a story that's unique to them. It may or may not involve lots of money or fame, but it is certainly a fulfillment of who they were created to be and what they were born to do. Mm-hmm. And I think in many cases, they have no idea how to get there and may lack the confidence to make that journey alone. Mm-hmm. And I think it's too often the case that when our kids are 18 and 19, we expect them to know exactly what they want to do and exactly how to get there. Right. But they really just need someone who genuinely cares about them to just usher them to that destination of personal greatness. And I think that that's what those of us who are in education are doing. We're called to edify those who are encouraged and admonish those who are about to give up and give hope to those whose hope account balance is zero.
Come on now.
And that's what we're called to do. And it's a noble calling.
Wow.
So I serve as the director of the mentorship program at Oklahoma City Community College. This program was launched in January of 2016 to address the plight of our Black male students. As we heard in the introductory video that you showed us, it's too often the case at predominantly and historically white institutions across the country that Black males are the most academically underperforming group. And that was true at OCCC as well. Mm-hmm. So our president decided to do something about that. So he hired me to start a mentorship program. And so we did that. And what I did is I talked to Black male students and I just wanted to find out about their experience on this campus and then put together a program that could help support them academically. The average GPA at that time for a Black male was 2.03. So we were losing a lot of our Black males because anything below a 2.0 puts them on academic probation and suspension. So I started off with about 22 young men. I think 4 of them were on academic probation that very first semester we started. And then at the end of our first semester, the young men in my program had an average GPA of 3.06.
Come on now. Come on now.
So as the piece said, at most institutions, Black males are the most underperforming. Asian females are the highest performing. And that's the case at OCCC. And what we found is that the Black males in my program outperformed the Asian females and continue to do that consistently. I mean, since the inception of this program, we've never had a semester where the GPA has fallen below a 3.0.
Come on.
And so we've grown it and expanded it. And we've now included Black females and Latinx students and Native students and still have the same results.
Wonderful.
So we just see when we support our students and give them an environment in which they can thrive, they'll do well.
Listen, I'm about to yell, Cortland! Ready for that 3.5. Yes, my baby just graduated 2 weeks ago and he just went home and he's going to OCCC.
Nice.
So I'm excited that you're going to be his mentor.
I will be right here helping him, supporting him all the way.
I love it. I appreciate that hope account balance. I appreciate that. That's good. That's good. So I'm going to bring you out, and you're going to be back in a minute.
All right.
I'm excited to bring to this conversation because it's not just academics. I think Mr. Dickens just hit on a little bit. If you can walk alongside a child, and even Ms. Johnson mentioned that, walking alongside of a child and helping them to be who they were called to be, that's different than, can you do math? Can you write? How's your social learning? How's your social emotional learning? How are you feeling today? Did you eat before you came to school? Are you upset? And so we oftentimes, I'm glad that it's getting better in the African American community, but there is or used to be a taboo when you talk about mental health. And I think when we talk about our young people, I think that's a conversation we need to start early so they know how to, so they're not 50 trying to figure it out. We want them to know that at a younger age. So I'm going to bring on my Spelman sister. She is in Illinois now. She's a great mental health, suicide prevention advocate, all that wonderful stuff. Miss Tandra Rutledge, I'm bringing her in. Say hello to the people.
Hey, Dr. Sherry. Hey, everyone. I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. And I would say, Dr. Sherry, that we still need to have these conversations. It is getting better. There is still a lot of stigma that we are trying to deal with in the Black community. And I know we'll talk about that in our conversation today. And I guess since you brought it up, my intention and why I was like, yes, when you reached out, is that my goal tonight and my contribution tonight is to really have an honest and open conversation about mental health in the Black community. It is a long overdue conversation, and it's a conversation that we sometimes overlook, especially when we're talking about student success. And I would challenge us to think about what defines success. What is success? Right? What defines success for our young people? Is it the straight A's? Is it the honor roll? Is it getting into a prestigious college? I think some of our guests have already alluded to the fact that that ain't it.
Right.
Right. That ain't it.
Right.
And so I love yeah, for us to continue to delve into that conversation a little more.
Yay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Glad to have you. So I'm going to bring everybody back in now that everybody's seen. You had your screen time by yourself. Now people can follow us around. I didn't want to confuse the people at first, that attention deficit. Listen, I get confused too. So
real.
Right. So the question that I posed to our panelists in the back, and again, if you're watching, thank you again for being here. Thank you for taking this time out of your evening just to have the conversation. One of the things I asked our panelists to discuss: where were we before the pandemic? Where did we find ourselves in the middle of the pandemic? And as I was talking to one of the principals, Mr. Hughes, earlier before we began, where are you now? So we've all had to pivot, and what does that pivot look like? And so I'm going to go and talk to, actually, since I mentioned you, Mr. Hughes,
Sure.
and
Thank you.
About having to pivot, go ahead and share where your students or students, high school students were before,
Sure.
during, and where we are now.
Yeah, so it's pretty unique when you look at education going back into the school building. I know a lot of schools were out for almost a year and a half, almost 2 years because of COVID. And then, the way of learning, the way of teaching, the way of educating students, even teachers, has completely changed, right? Some of the things that we used in the past is not working. You have to know how to pivot and make some adjustments, So this year, coming into the school building, the ideal of we're going to use the same platform, the same techniques that we used in the past. It didn't work within the first day, right? we had a meeting that Wednesday, and we said, guys, this is not going to work. We got to sit down. We have to rethink the way we're doing things. Even as simple as, what does lunch look like? What does breakfast look like? How do we separate students to where they feel safe amongst their friends and they're, with mask mandates? So a lot of things have definitely changed. And what's challenging the most is when you think about the resources that schools are able to offer or can offer. Some families are challenged with not having resources, whether it be connectivity to the internet, having a workable computer, right? You know, when you talk about virtual learning, I can remember popping into some classes, watching some students that are watching their younger siblings or helping their younger siblings, and they're trying to learn an AP classroom, right? You talk about just those intangible things that sometimes we don't consider are challenges and barriers that students have to live with, right? And we talk about the achievement gap when there was already an achievement gap prior to COVID, and now we're looking at there's like a 2-year delay is what the research is saying in regards to academically, socially. Now, how can we close that gap?
Yeah.
And I believe the way to do that is to provide resources to be able to connect families to those resources. In some cases, just being able to have the conversation with family, this is what we have available. Some schools offer things that families don't know nothing about because they may not get that information, right? We had a challenge this year in regards to reaching our Latino community. Some of the things we're sending out is all in English. So we're taking out an entire group of individuals based on things that were given out that's not in their native language. So being open-minded and being open to changes and being open to that, I can definitely see that achievement gap closing. So.
Wow, that's good. That's good. That's good. Miss Johnson, come on in. She pushed the button and disappeared. Like, where'd she go?
Hello. I have never used this platform before, so thank you for your patience.
You're good. So where are you now, especially with your babies? I call them babies. They're 2 years old to 8th grade. They're babies. I know that I remember when you used to sit at the kitchen table with your babies homeschooling. So how can we help parents? How can we help grandparents? Remember we talked about being, from a place of privilege. So mom and dad might be working this summer.
Right.
But I'm staying with an auntie or with my grandparents or with my neighbor. And so how do you equip us as the family members or caregivers to intentionally help the child with some tips that we can do and use?
It's interesting because it's going back to the basics. It's going outside. It's finding a park and running around. It's making a kite and throwing it in the air and figuring out why the kite didn't fly. Oh, because the wind's
a waste of time. That's a waste of time. What you talking about? Going to a park? What? I don't understand.
Outside and hugging a tree.
Oh.
So here's and it's funny because what we plant in our children early, will grow until they get to college, right? So we have to plant the right seeds. And it is so interesting because it was during the pandemic that once you plant the seed, you don't see it, but but in time that tree grows. So when they were small, for at least an hour every day, they were outside playing at the park. It was always an adventure because we're going to go for a hike today. And my husband would say, hiking? Do Black people hike? Yes, they do. The Black people in this house go for a hike. And I would sit and they'd say, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And then I'd be like, guys, it's getting dark. I'm not going to be able to find our way back to the car. I know Oklahoma City has those free water parks. It was the best thing in the world to just go push the button, close on after church, go get it. But they need to be outside. And so during the pandemic, and I think this is a place that that education did not pick up on, right? So a lot of schools here, class was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was an asynchronous day.
Okay.
So, that you could meet with a teacher, you could do homework on your own, but you didn't have to log in on Wednesdays at a lot of schools here. And then Thursday and Friday, you were back on Zoom with your teacher, so that they were trying to break that up a little bit. We should have learned from that because kids took naps, they went outside, they played. And so my kids went back to the park. Now, praise God, they drove themselves, but that was fantastic. Right. But they went and played tennis together, and I was like, oh, I want to play. This is our time. You are absolutely right. get on with it, right? But we have to go back to the basics. You know, we have lots of used athletic equipment stores here. Go buy a $5 racket for everybody in the house and set some tennis balls free on the tennis ball court. Those things matter, not just to the mental health, but to the child's ability to say, I am really good at this thing too, right? So the other piece, the library. Help your child to fall in love with the library. If I called my kids now and said, hey, meet me at the library at 5 o'clock, they're not only going to come, they're going to bring their friends because they know that I'm going to bring food. We're going to camp out, and you learn how to explore the library. Because I go back to, the video, it is so important that our children fall in love with reading. Right. So not reading for homework's sake, but reading because I really want to know more about butterflies. Mama, did you know about the history of Oklahoma? I had no idea. Yep. Let me take you to that section of the library. Right. So, and when you do that, then that was the first thing I did when I brought Gabriel home. I said, honey, have you ever listened to a book? He said, what? And we went to the library. We got a basket full of audio books. And I said, we have those Percy Jackson books. And he followed along with the book, listening in his headphones, and following along with the book. He became it built his fluency. He was completely occupied. And then it was like, you know what? I bet we could build the world that Percy Jackson lives in. We went online, we did the mythology research, and I didn't have to beg him because he wanted to know who these Greek gods were. And then he said, Mama, all these gods are white. I said, are they? I bet we could find some black gods too. So then we went into African cosmology, and he did a whole research project. And so and I think that's also the basis of Montessori. You follow what the child's interests are, and then you don't have to beg them to read. You don't have to beg them to research, and they learn to follow and trust their own path.
I will say that to add to that, one of the things when Chandler was in middle school, having to read books, and actually a teacher suggested audiobooks, and it wasn't the library, but whatever platform it was, he had an account. And so the same thing, he would listen, but he would follow along in the book. And so a lot of times we think of our kids, are we visual learners, auditory, we kinesthetic? Our kids need to move around and do all those things. So what does it look like if I'm getting it from two or three different forms? Kinesthetic, because I have it here, visual, I'm looking at it, but auditory as well. And some of those words that I may not be sure of, right? It's kind of sounded out for me so I can hear it. And now the next time I see the word, it's like, oh, I know that word. And so that would be a suggestion for you all with when you say your kids don't like to read, possibly go and get an audible book. So audio at the library can be free, or if you have a membership, you can maybe $1. Audible is what I have on my phone. I have it on my iPad. So even I, at 50, lay up in the bed sometimes and have my little self-help, and that calms me down. But I'm still learning, and so that's still engaging with your child. So that just reminded me of something. I hadn't really thought about that. But yeah, parents, grandparents, you may not have time to sit with your child and read, and they're not going to do it by themselves. So help them out. Give them an audiobook as well. It's not going to hurt. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Talk to some of that. I'm going to get back to you, OCCC. Hold on one second, because one of the things that Erica kind of brought to my mind when she talked about letting kids go outside and play. And I was like, because, grandma's like, you better get in here, close that door, keep my air in the house. Don't do all that. If you're going outside, stay outside. And so there's some things we've been trained in the African-American community that it has to look a certain way. But how does that affect our mental? How does, is there any type of mental effect between going outside and being free, or sitting in front of a computer, or help us?
Oh, that's a whole nother show. We can get all into generational trauma, and we can get into the things that were handed down and passed down that we were told to do, that we have translated to tradition that actually is traumatizing to us. So that's a whole other show. Now, it's not going outside.
Okay.
Because we should go outside.
Right.
But there are a lot of things in our culture that we pride ourselves on that actually cause us harm. That actually cause us harm. And so I love what you were saying, Erica, about going outside and the audiobooks. And one of the things I was thinking about is you were talking about grandmas, Dr. Sherry. And one of the things I was thinking about for me during the pandemic, I don't know about y'all, maybe it was just me, but I was struggling. I don't know about any of y'all, but I was having a hard time with the coping skills that I had prior to the pandemic. And the coping skills that I had were like going to the spa and things like that. And those things were shut down. And so I was faced with, oh my goodness, I can't get away from the people in my house.
They're still here.
They're still here and everything is shut down and I can't go nowhere.
Right.
And I'm the mother of 2 Black boys and my husband. And I was like, oh, right. And so resilience is that ability to bounce back. It's a skill that's taught, right? And so I had to learn new skills. I had to learn new skills. I tried growing herbs. It didn't work. I tried growing plants. It didn't work. I tried a few things. The point is, I had to start modeling healthy coping skills for my children, right? So as adults, one of the things going outside can do, right? Sometimes, you know, I don't know if my mother will go outside and walk. She will. She's not going to hug the tree, Miss Erica. She will go outside. But we as adults have to model healthy coping skills. We're talking about mental health. Right? That's one of the things, do as I say and not as I do, right? That's one of the things we got to throw away, right? We have to be willing to model healthy coping skills for our children, our nieces, our nephews, the people, the young people that are looking to us for guidance and looking up to us. So being able to model, they see us going outside and taking a hike, right? They get curious. They see us going to the library and getting audiobooks. They see us trying something and failing at it and us going, oh, let's try it again, or let's try something new. We talk out loud about the things that we're not good at, and then we pivot and we're showing them that it's okay to make a mistake, that it's okay to fail, that even mama, grandma, auntie, uncle does it, and the world didn't end. One of the things I'll say to my boys sometimes, I'll say, but did you die?
Right.
Like, what's the worst thing that you think could happen? Like, what did your brain tell you would happen when you made that mistake? What was like, you know, my son was in a musical, and right before the musical, I felt like he was saying goodbye. He was like, I'm really scared. I'm really nervous. Thank you. And I was like, okay, baby, you about to start, break a leg. And he was like, okay, I love you, mommy. I'm really nervous. Okay, do it. And afterwards I said, you did great. I said, you faced the fear. Did you die? He was like, what you mean, Mom? I was like, you was kicking and screaming there for a while about what you didn't want to do. I can't remember who said it, but helping your child, I think it was you, Erica, talking about like, every child's not going to be good at math. Every child's not going to be good at reading, but finding what that child is good at. I call it finding a child's superpower. Finding their superpower, because every child has it, right? And then pouring into that superpower for them so that they can develop. I think Brian, you started talking about like the confidence, right? Building their confidence, you know, it's so very important. I didn't mean to go on, y'all, but you know, some stuff got stirred up there for a moment there. I'm gonna settle it back down. I hope I answered your question, Dr. Sherry.
All the way around, yes. But it is good. Go ahead, Erica. Go ahead.
Can I just jump in? Because I used to have a sign in the homework room that says strategies help us to live well. And it was exactly what you're saying, because I needed my kids to know mommy learns new things and all the plants die. And then we adjust and we read a book and we watch, go to YouTube, and we do some investigating. We buy different plants, and we start again. You know,
or we just get plastic ones. Because that's what's in my house, with the exception of this one.
Where you live again? Okay. So
we can have another class later about that, but this is the only live one.
Okay, we go add this. But they and I say that because to just mention executive functioning skills. Mm-hmm. So when I talk about being from living like coming from a place of privilege, the trick is that you have to learn how to go to school. You have to learn how to educate yourself. I tell kids all the time, August Wilson dropped out of school in the 9th grade. And his mama didn't know, because he was faithful to getting up in the morning, going to the library and reading all day, and then coming home like, I had a great day at school, mama, right? And is the most prolific, I can go on a tangent about this too, but is one of the most prolific playwright, right? That captured the essence of what it means to be Black in America. Yeah. With no high school education. So that there's no barrier when you realize, hey, there's a way to learn. I can figure out how I learn best. And then I can go forth doing the things that I do. So executive function, and I think it feeds into everything that Brian and Mr. Joe Hughes is doing, because once we give them those executive functioning skills, we fortify their mental health. We give them the executive functioning skills to know how they learn best. How do I manage my time? How do I manage my materials? How do I prioritize my thinking? It feeds right into high school and college, and they go into those institutions much stronger learners.
And so it's funny, I love what both of you are saying, because Tandra, you're speaking from the adult standpoint of modeling, and then Erica, you're talking about how you're teaching your child to advocate for themselves and for them to know what type of learner or how they learn best. And so now I want to cut across the field to Mr. Dickens, because now we know that you do mentoring at OCCC. How do we begin to align ourselves? Like, if they're not at OCCC, how do they find people like you? What are the voices that they need to hear and listen to? I always say, close your ears off to the whispers of the enemy, those things that would keep you doubting yourself and fearful, and open up. How do you make us aware of that voice that's over there that's saying, you can do this? I got you. Talk to us about that, Mr. Dickens.
Well, I think that's so important. And let me first of all say kudos to you for having a mental health expert among the panel today. Ms. Rutledge has given us such great information, and I have found that particularly these last 2 years that our students are really suffering in the area of mental health. And I have recently partnered with a local organization to provide counselors of color for my students, because there was a notion that students don't go to counselors. Well, just because they haven't doesn't mean they won't. And maybe if we provide counselors who are relatable and have shared experiences, then the students would be open to doing it. And that's what we found. So I had an overwhelming response from my students when we did that. And so I'm very grateful. And getting to your question, I think it's important for us to really encourage our students to be open to the people that they meet and the people that they engage with. They probably engage with people just regularly at church or at school or different organizations, different events, who could serve as mentors for them. And I encourage my students to have several mentors, because people have areas of expertise that are different. And so you'll have a mentor that you go to when you have financial issues, and a mentor that you can go to when you're dealing with career decisions, and just have an accumulation of mentors. And I think one of the easiest places to start is church, for example. And oftentimes there are people there who are in a variety of professions who are very willing to even just sit and have lunch with a child and talk to them about what they do. It can be something as simple as that. And so I think encouraging our students to be open to those opportunities. I also believe that particularly for students of color, we tend not to be as assertive when it comes to asking for an opportunity to just shadow someone for 2 or 3 hours, or do an externship where you're just there for maybe a full day. So being a little bit more assertive as it relates to those opportunities, many professionals really do want to help students, and they're honored to be asked, and then they're more than willing to do it. So a lot of that is really low-hanging fruit that I think our children can take advantage of, but we as adults need to encourage them to do that and then assist them as they seek those opportunities as well.
Awesome. And so you said, kids being open, but I will share this with you because some of them will not do it. But there are like amazing people. You all are amazing here. There are amazing people watching, and you have skill sets and you have talents. You have an opportunity where you see this child, whether they're in church, because not everybody's in church. It might be mosque. It might be an after school program. It might be, it can be anywhere. If you see a child that you know that you can help. So we did something during Black History Month. And the student had an opportunity to do some type of artistic piece about My Black is Beautiful. And so it was one young lady who won, and she had, the big afro, and inside the afro were the different, words of affirmation. And little did I know, there was a gentleman in our church who is an architect and does artistry. And so like Sundays after that, I saw them in the fellowship hall. She and her mom would go over there on the other side. And I was like, oh, he's tutoring her in math. And he said, no, when he saw her work, he wanted to show her how to draw. And I'm like, come on. I couldn't have asked for that.
That's great. That's
amazing.
So as an adult, he found her. She's only in middle school anyway. So I don't want to just put it on the kids, or parents. Those of you who are watching, you have a special skill set. You see something in a child, please go after them. Talk to the parent. Hey,
very true.
Child, because I want to help. I want to help them. Mr. Hughes, you look like you wanted to jump in.
Well, no, I was going to say, when Mr. Dixon's talking about in regards to just creating those networks. That was one of the things I actually addressed the senior class this year. Going to that college campus, right? We're talking about a new environment, new community, but making those connections, being open to meeting new people. You just never know who you might run into that could potentially change your life, or you can change their life, right? Some things that, students are, it's funny, students are actually teaching us, how they want to learn, right? So you just never know how resourceful that those students can be, and who they might come in close contact with that could potentially put them in places that they may not even imagine. But just being an advocate for themselves and knowing how to do that. Have parents too. They may know people that could potentially help their student as well. And just being able to make the next step and make that connection. Professionals are willing and open to support and help students from any and all backgrounds.
Good. You said something, and I want to pivot there. You said students are teaching us how they want to learn. And so
absolutely,
some of you spoke to that. I want us to take that one line and everybody jump in on that. What does that mean from your standpoint? What does that look like? So I'm an adult listening. I'm a mommy, I'm an auntie, I'm a neighbor. What does that sound like? How is a child teaching me how they want to learn? Jump in, everybody.
So I'll start off. So just this year, I'll just talk about this year and being ahead of school, listening to students coming in, talking about what they've done in class in the past and what they're doing now, right? I spoke to a student, and they were talking about as simple as having light music play in the background change their way to make them focus in class, right? So even though, how can we create that atmosphere for this particular student? But, we have other students that want that same atmosphere. Okay. We had a classroom this year that she had the lights dim. She had natural light in the room, and there's other light sources. And those students engaged and they enjoyed that learning environment. Wow. So just some small things that we take for granted that students want and they want to see in their classrooms that we had no clue prior to the post-pandemic in regards to their learning styles.
Wonderful. So anybody else jump in, and not just learning, but also mental when you understand. Sure. So jump in.
So I love that. I think that what young people are telling us in these last 2 years that they've been telling us for a very long time, right? It's, the pandemic has, created and exacerbated a lot of the stress that students have been experiencing. And I think from a mental health perspective, they've been, what that student in that example, that you gave us, what they've been telling us is they've been more communicative about their thoughts, about their feelings, and their behaviors. And that's what mental health is, right? Mental health has to do with how we think, how we feel, and how we behave, right? How we interact with one another. That's everything, right? When you think about your thoughts, your feelings, and behaviors, that's everything. That's how important mental health is. It has to do with how we show up in class, how we relate to one another, how we relate to our families, how we problem solve, how we cope with stress. That's mental health. So I want us to, so what I think young people have been saying, and I've even seen it in my own family. I have a middle schooler who has ADHD. He has an IEP, and he's had a rough couple of weeks. And one of the things we talk about is we talk about what his brain needs, just like we talk about when he has a headache or an arm ache, right? We talk about the part that's hurting, right? So we're not going to blame him for his inability to focus. We're going to talk about the function that's affected by his condition.
Gotcha.
Right? So we say, well, what does your brain need so that he learns, do I need to get some rest? Am I hungry? Like, what is it that I can take care of my brain to help myself feel better? Right? And so one of the things that I think young people have been teaching us, and certainly the young person in my family has taught me, he didn't have a great week at school. It's hormones, preteen, all of the developmental things that are exacerbated by all the things, right? And I said, what do you need? What does your brain need? And he said, I really just need a day off from school. I said, done. I take a day off from work.
Right.
When I need it.
Right.
I had to retrain my brain from perfect attendance. I don't have perfect attendance at work.
Right. As Erica said, right.
Right. You did. And I was like, yes. What's a perfect attendance award? That's a stress out award. That's what it is. It's a stress me out award. Like, I'm intentional.
Me at home award.
Wait. Tomorrow's June 1st. I'm already looking at my calendar going, any, many, miny. It will take 4 days this month. And I'm not doing it for a doctor's appointment. I'm not doing it. I'm just any, many, miny, middle of the week, end of the week, long weekend. So yes, he took the day off from school.
Wow.
Not because he's sick, because his brain needed it.
Wow.
So I think that young people are teaching us that. They're telling us what they need, but we ain't listening too well. We sometimes as parents, we ain't listening too well. I think that educators are doing a better job of listening because you've kind of been forced to, right? Because of the pandemic and everything and how it's changed and how everything that you've done. So hats off to all the educators has changed. Yeah. But for some of us parents, I think that we haven't really done the best job of adjusting to listening to what our children are saying and giving them the space for what they need when they're telling us what those needs are.
Wow. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, and I would piggyback off of that by saying that that we don't listen to children. We just don't.
Yeah.
And the generational trauma that is passed down, they didn't listen to me, and I don't have to listen to you. Wow. One of the things that the pandemic did in exacerbating, I saw it in the comments, exacerbating the achievement gap and all the issues that affect it, is that it really did open the door to the access issue. You really can do school online. Yeah. You really can log in. It was amazing to me how, because before I took this position, I was in a high school and then I was in a middle school. The kids who were excellent in the classroom went down the drain, poor babies, when it was time to be online. But those kids who are hiding in the classroom online, Miss Johnson, I'm gonna see you tomorrow, right? We're gonna tutor on Saturday morning. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I couldn't get you to pay attention Monday through Friday, but this Saturday morning tutoring session that I have, this, the study hall, that Miss Johnson's mandatory study hall. Now you want to come to that, but you're not failing anymore. I know, but it's just so great to see you on Saturday morning.
Wow.
That is a need. Right? That is a need. It's a social need, it's an emotional need, and it's an attention need. So I think that we did not learn how to allow every child to access their teacher, how to access information. And so, because we're all back in the classroom, and and I heard it was amazing to hear so many people say, we're back. And I was like, everybody is not happy about this. I have at least 25% of these kids who are saying, so what? So we're not meeting on Saturday morning anymore? Right? Because being in the classroom was not the best place for every child. And so I think we have to really pay attention, and so, yes, you have to show up to school. I get that. But how does the schoolhouse, now let me back up. How do parents say, my child really needs to be online?
Yeah.
How do parents say, well, let me find an online after school program that'll let them log into this? Because we have to pay attention to like all of the ways that you can access education.
Right. I'm going to get to Mr. Brian Dickens in a minute, but Mr. Hughes, is even at Harding or some of the schools here, do kids have an option? Do parents have an option, or is everybody back?
So I know at Harding everyone is back, but I will say this: we heard the voices. We understood that yes, there is a barrier in regards to online learning. So what we provided to any family, any student that wanted to take advantage of it, is we provided a online after school program to where they can still engage with their teachers.
Okay.
Again, you will have students that's working, they're part of activities, programs, and they can't be at the school building 3 more hours, right? Because it's inconvenient for them. Okay. So what we did was we provided an opportunity for students to access their teachers at least 2 hours each Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, if they wanted to, for support, conversation. The way you can access and use the internet and online services has definitely opened up a lot of opportunities for students and teachers.
So I would say, parents, if you're listening, if your child is that child, advocate for your child. Go up to the school and find out what options there are. If you know somebody just commented their child did better, they thrived online. And so I want you to feel empowered to go and ask the question. They possibly would do it, but nobody's asked. So if you know your child did better, then go and talk to administration. All right. OCCC, come talk to me. I'm sorry.
Well, I just want to piggyback really on what everyone has said regarding that, because it's really incumbent upon institutions of education to accommodate their learners. And so that's something that we've had to do here on this campus. And I think all schools at every level, K through 12, including higher education, should do that as well. Some students do better in the classroom, others do better online. Some like a combination of the two, so hybrid classes are good. We have found that some students do better learning during an 8-week period as opposed to a 16-week semester.
Others do that well. You guys, you have that model, right?
Yes, we certainly do. Yeah, so there are several different modalities for instructional delivery. Or we've got some classes that just meet 2 weeks every single day, like 5 days in a row, 5 days in a row, and then it's done. Or maybe 4 Saturdays and just all day. Because some students do better when they can just focus on one subject at a time and really concentrate on that, and then move on to the next subject and do one at a time. So I think it's really important for us to listen to our students, to see what really resonates with them, and how they can be most successful in their learning. And definitely time is out for us just sticking to tradition only because we've always done it that way.
Yeah.
Let's do what's best for our students.
Okay, I appreciate that. Guys, we're coming to a close. So I want us to put on your thinking caps really quickly, because I need you in your final statement to address 2 different groups of people. I want you to give a word to our students. And then I want you to give a word to the parents or the caregiver, whoever's going to be in charge of them. Now, granted, if you have a high schooler or college, they're kind of on their own, right? But, for the middle school, high school, definitely, we want to speak to that parent or that caregiver during the time. Just a word of encouragement or a tip they can carry throughout the summer. So if they don't remember anything else you said, then they're going to remember this, but they are this word of encouragement. And also, as you're doing that, if you would also, after you say your speech, your Easter speech, go ahead and put your information. I know I told you to put it behind the chat, but I can't get it together. So you type your own information just in case people want to reach out to you, if they can follow you on social media, if there's an email where if they have a follow-up question, they can ask as well. So who wants to go first? Who's saying pick me, pick me? Erica, thank you.
Only because I work with the youngest of our babies. Okay, so a word to children.
Mm-hmm. What can they do over the summer?
Over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I would say the summer is your time. The summer is your time. Sit down with mom and dad. This has been a practice in our house for a long time.
Okay.
Make a June, July, and August calendar, and then write in all the things that you want to accomplish over the summer. I want to, on Mondays, I'm going to sleep all day. On Tuesdays, it's my turn to walk the dog. On Wednesdays, I'm only watching documentaries about fish. But write in what you want to do, right? Label each week what you want to investigate, right? So that you are spending your summer being your best self, spending time with you, and getting really good at the things that you want to get good at. That's my word to the young people. Okay. To the adults, I would say the summertime is the best time to get to know your student. Right? You don't get the time back.
Yeah.
So take the summer. Honor the schedule that you all create together, right? Honor that calendar and live. Disneyland may not be a thing, and that's okay. Right. That's okay, but honor that schedule so that your child is learning those executive functioning skills of planning, of preparing, of researching, and then and spend that time, that valuable time with your child. The only thing that you need to think about for that 2 years to 8th grade, how do I function well in my home? Okay. Right? How do I keep my room clean? How do I wash my dish? How do I not, antagonize my sibling? Well in your home, right? And then go have fun. Go have fun and really look at those executive functioning skills, because there's a way to be a student. And too often we are not training our children to be good students and to be wonderful human beings.
Awesome. Can I get a woo woo? All right. Woo woo. It was great. And while the next person's going, type your stuff in, Erica, so they can reach you.
So I couldn't type in the comments. Is that a certain way to do that?
It won't let you do that. So I'll go back and get your information then.
Okay.
So you can talk. I'm good.
Okay. So I'll go next. I would 100% agree with Ms. Johnson in regards to creating a plan. To all my high schoolers, if you're going in this summer, stay connected. Try to find, as Mr. Dixon said, resources, find some volunteer opportunities, job shadowing opportunities. Make those connections now, right? It's really important to, if you can, get some internships when you have time. I would even ask if you have some local colleges, universities in your city, in your state, if they're accessible, walk a college campus if you've never been on one before. Doing that creates opportunities, it creates exposure. So I'm encouraging students to do that, families to do that. Do a little college tour around your state. I know Oklahoma has several that are in close proximity of each other, and it wouldn't take you too long to do a whole day of just visiting different universities and colleges. I would also say if you're not part of different programs, Upward Bound, if you're not going to different the Metropolitan Library, looking at what they could provide for just educational resources in the summertime. But closing that summer gap, I don't want to say do all learning, but if you close that gap between the spring and fall semester, we're talking about 2 months. Still want to engage the brain. You still want to be looking for resources to keep that engagement. So that's my message to both families and also students. So parents, get involved, get connected, know your student, get to know who they are. That's so important. This 2 months, they are with you. They're not at school half the day. So you have an opportunity to make those connections, because they won't be high schoolers for long. They'll be going off to colleges, and then you'll get those 2 visits, visits a year. So take advantage of the time you have with your student now, because it's so important for their development and their learning growth.
That's good. As you were talking, a parent, Angela Hornsby, said for those kids that are rising seniors, make sure they start applying for scholarships in the summer before their senior year. So thank you.
Absolutely. Start those essays. Start doing some mock essays.
That's good.
Having people look over them.
That's good. All right, who's up next?
Okay, I'll go on and go next. I would say to students, simply just don't let people tell you the sky is the limit when there are footprints on the moon.
Come on. What?
The sky is really only the beginning. The sky is the beginning.
Come on now.
And so let's encourage our students to set their sights high, and work hard to achieve those aspirations, and you can do it. And so I would certainly say that to our students.
Wow.
And to our parents and other caregivers for our students, I would say just remind our students, be their cheerleader. Remind them that they have the capacity, and then help them develop their audacity, and then help them maintain the tenacity that it takes for them to get where they would like to go in life, because they can do that, and they just need a little assistance, just a little help, and they can certainly do that. So that would be my advice to parents and caregivers as well.
Okay, you just the hashtag king, because
hey, that was
I can't even keep up.
I have to write it down.
We'll have to go back and watch this, because I was trying to put in the comments. It's not even gonna work. So I'll go back and post it later.
All right.
Thank you. And Tandra.
That was some good stuff too. I was like so focused on what you were saying. That was great. Everybody gave some great comments. I would say to young people, what's very important is that your feelings are valid. Your feelings are valid, and it's okay to feel your emotions. Just learn how to develop the coping skills to deal with those emotions and those feelings in healthy and productive ways. Find an adult that you trust that's going to help you be able to deal with those emotions and feelings that you can confide in. So my takeaway for them would be that your feelings are valid, and it's okay to have all. I tell young people, it's okay to have all the feels that you want to have.
Right.
And I would say to adults, to parents, caregivers, grandmamas, aunties, uncles, I think that it's important for us, because I'm include myself in that, because I'm all of that, right? That it's important for us to make sure that we, and I said it before, that we model healthy coping skills. We keep communication open and honest, and that we let our children know that they are loved and supported unconditionally, and that we're not afraid to talk about all the feels.
Yeah.
We have to be open enough to talk about feelings, and that so that we show our children and the children around us that it's safe to talk about feelings, and especially for our male children, especially for our boys. We have to create those safe spaces for our young men.
Awesome. Y'all, Did I tell y'all we had some powerhouses? So we'll go through really quickly because Erica, you're always the one that speaks first, and I don't get your stuff up in time. So this is Erica.
Can I
cool? There's
say one thing?
Go.
I just love Ms. Rutledge and all of the people who do the work that she does. And so I just very much appreciate you. And I want to say to parents, I have no shame in the fact that my daughter has a therapist. She is going to a predominantly white boarding school. She is one of 150 girls on campus total. And it is because of her therapist over the last 2 years that she has been able to overcome the messages of anti-Blackness that still exist in our society. And so it is so important that when we talk about supporting students, we talk about professional support. Yeah. We talk about, executive functioning coaches. We talk about tutors and I know that these things get expensive, but you have people right here in your village who can provide resources and support. And so I often tell her, honey, that lovely blonde hair, blue-eyed child whose parents built a building on campus. She has 7 different instructors outside of school who are helping her to make it look good when she shows up in class.
Right.
And we don't tell our children that. We send our children off into these oftentimes predominantly white environments and say, go do what they're doing without seeing the invisible supports that happen. Mm-hmm. And so it is people like Ms. Rutledge who are allowing our children, right, to overcome what integration. Okay, that's a whole other.
Okay. I'm not gonna say a whole lot, but I'm gonna thank you for that. And we didn't talk about it, and this is Dr. Sherry, probably another show. I'm sorry. But we do have to have a conversation among our kinfolk about mental health and when our children really do need help.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of us and there are a lot of issues, and we know mistrust of the mental health system, shame and stigma. And there are a lot of reasons, valid historical reasons we should not trust. But when our children are struggling, and even before, proactively, right? My oldest son has a therapist. He got one in the pandemic. I was just like, okay, you're not talking to me. You're not talking to nobody. You want a therapist? He was like, yeah, okay, talk to him. Like, you know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of stigma though in our community around labeling and when our kids do need help and medication. And I thank you for sharing that with us tonight, because this conversation continues beyond what Dr. Sherry has presented. This is scratching the surface for us. And hopefully we will take what we learn here and continue these conversations. And I know Dr. Sherry is committed to this work, as is all of us, that we'll continue these conversations on and on. But thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. And both of you, even as parents, I appreciate your honesty, your vulnerability. Now your kids might be like, don't be telling them my business.
I already told them that. They know, like, look, you part of it all. I
know it. But I appreciate that, because oftentimes, and even you, Tandra, you doing the work, but realizing, oh, he's not talking to me, but you can talk to somebody else. So I appreciate all of you. I hope that you bless the parents that are watching tonight. I know that you did. Because some of us as parents are at wit's end. I don't know how to help. You weren't paid to do that. You didn't go to school for that. There's somebody that paid some good money to get the education to help you in this process. So I thank you all. Listen, you guys are just like amazing. Here, look at the people talking. Look. You guys did that, and I am so appreciative of that. I do want to share with you, HBCU, Jarvis Christian, on this Saturday, they're hosting a recruitment. It's HBCU in Texas. They're hosting a recruitment series somewhere. I just posted it here. I'm going to show it there, but it's also in the comment. If you click that link, Dr. Marsha Herron was supposed to jump on at the end, but she got tied up. But it's open any junior and senior Jarvis Christian. Yeah, I think I said it right. It's this Saturday, I believe, from 9 to 12, I believe at Metro Tech. And so any of you who are watching, who have students, even if you have a graduate who has not decided, everybody who walked across the stage didn't make a decision to go someplace. And so they're in limbo trying to work, but it's like, hey, and so they do have scholarship money. So it's just a recruitment or informational just for Jarvis Christian. So there's the link there. You can go ahead and tag that in the comments. But I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, this has been an amazing conversation. Like you said, it just scratched the surface. Oh, actually, she said I'm here. She's down there. Okay. So I'm going to say hello to her really quickly. Tell us, come on, Doc. Hey, how are you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. That was a phenomenal panel. Thank you so much. I had a lot of that parts, right? Every time someone said something, especially being a mother of Black sons. But like Dr. Sherry said, the O.D. Dempsey Memorial Foundation, in partnership with the Sigma Sigma Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, we're offering an opportunity for students who have not committed to college to meet with Jarvis Christian University officials. ODDJMF, we give out scholarships to senior students. And so we have one more scholarship that we're able to do. And we'll be presenting scholarships at this particular event for some of our students who are scholarship winners. So it is at Metro Tech in the Health Career Center. It's from 9:30 to 12. It's for any senior or junior that you have. Juniors can learn about Jarvis Christian. Seniors can apply to the university on spot. There'll be some recruiters there that can talk to them about scholarships that they still have available. They'll also be able to talk to them about sports. They'll be able to talk to them about their academic programs. So this is for any student that never heard that they had the power to go to college. We want to give them the opportunity to know that they can go to college, and there's a space waiting for them at Jarvis Christian University.
Awesome.
Thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Sherry. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate that. Listen, we got to get our kids in some HBCUs if we can. Yes. Again, thank you to our panelists. Thank you to all of you who are watching. Thank you to those who will share this with someone else, because somebody couldn't get on tonight and they're going to need this conversation. They're going to need all those things to tweet. I'm telling you, I'm going back to get Mr. Dickens' stuff. All his stuff, he was just saying, the sky is not the limit because the footprints on the moon. What? I am so appreciative of the conversation. I'm appreciative of all the work that you all do. And for those of you who are watching, every month I'm coming back with something. I don't know, whatever Lord lays on my heart. If we go the mental health route, then that's where we'll go next month. But I just want you all to always be a part of the conversation. Know that we're here for young people. And I say it all the time, Black and brown kids. That's who I want everybody to do well. But I want Black and brown kids to win and to excel and to know that they're able, because they're already footprints on the moon. Y'all, that's enough. Good night, y'all. Wave to the people. We're out of here. Thank you.